put your might be good to use if you are suffering from an inability to sleep in the next few days. Just put this recording on; it'll put you right to sleep. But we're happy to have you all on with us tonight. We call this the Newcomers Call. We host this every second Tuesday of the month, and it was quite a month in July, by the way. It was the company's best month ever, and we've been on an upward track for some time now. But frankly, one of the reasons it was our best month ever was because of you, because you joined in the month of July. Most of you, some of you in August, and you'll continue to be parts of our best months ever as we continue to grow, as we continue to share what we have in our company, what makes us unique, and what we're all about. So I was thinking recently about the phrase, "You're judged by the company you keep." Have you ever heard that phrase? We all have, right? Our parents told us as we were hanging out with kids they didn't want us to hang out with and whatnot. We know that that's something that is well known. And it's a saying actually that goes back thousands of years, whether it was Goethe or Epictetus. There's all types of people who have said some version of, "You're judged by the company you keep." So I thought we'd explain a little bit about actives. Who are we? And whether it's a company you want to keep. We think it is, and in fact, we think it is the company to keep. So I'm going to share my screen here. Stu, I think I have the ability to do that, right? Let's start.
Yes, I just made you co-host, so you should be good.
It says I'm paused now. Hold on. Let me go back here. Here, can you see this screen, Stu? It just went crazy on my screen. Well, you know what?
I just see a black screen and it says David Brown has started screen sharing. That's it.
No, let's try it again.
So try and click on what you're trying to share, and then I think it'll pop up. There you go. We see your PowerPoint slide now.
How's that?
Yep.
Let's go back. This is where you can say, well, the company he keeps is bringing somebody on who knows what they're doing. That's sure. So, I want to talk a little bit about. I'm going to go out of this one and get into a different one because we're on the wrong PowerPoint. That was good. How'd you like that one? Okay. Okay, first of all, I want to talk about who we are and what we've done. And, if some of the common objections you probably have heard about network marketing companies are that they're all pyramid schemes and they're run by people who are just trying to get a lot of money, and that they're eventually all going to go to jail. And if you join them, you're going to go to jail too. Well, I can tell you that that's not the case. If you, number one, tell the truth, and then two, if you have real products and a real business opportunity. And those of us who started this company just almost a little bit over 4 years ago now, I've had a lot of experience. I'm a lawyer by training. I left practicing law to go in-house with a dietary supplement company that sold into retail, became the president of that company and others. And along the way, met some wonderful people who we decided to get together with and create actives about 4 years ago. One of my partners is Ryan Thompson, who serves as president, and Angie Hawthorne, who's celebrating her anniversary tonight. That's why she's not with us. She's our chief operating officer. We all got together originally with a company called LifeVantage. Some of you know about that company. We'll be referring to that, some of the technology that we learned about in that company. But we've had a good track record for years. And Stu joined us back then, and others, and we thought, you know what, we had some good experiences, but along the way, we learned how to do things a little bit better, I think. So that's what we want. In terms of the company that we keep, we've been very, very fortunate to put together a great scientific advice, well, not just scientific advisory board, but advisory board. We have Dr. Joe Maroon, who is a world-renowned neurosurgeon, Dr. Brett Earl, who has a great background in not only emergency medicine, which he practiced for almost 20 years, but now in foundational medicine and functional medicine, when he has his own practice and has had that for 10 years or more. Vice Admiral Matt Winter, who's now retired, but he was a sitting Vice Admiral at the time that he joined our board, which is no small feat. We actually had to be vetted as a company, both in terms of our products, what kind of company we were, the channel that we were selling in order for the Navy and their lawyers to allow Admiral Winter to serve on our advisory board. We have Sinead Irwin, who has a very interesting background, initially as an investment banker, but in response to her own health issues, went back to school, got graduate degrees in health and in functional medicine and in dietitian and being a dietitian, and she's a great expert in terms of lifestyle and increasing your overall health. Dr. Daniel Hernandez, who has been long a colleague of Dr. Joe McCord, whom we'll talk about a little bit more, is also a well-known authority in free radical biology and oxidative stress processes. He's associated with the University of Colorado Medical School and is also part of our board. Dr. Rish Patel, who is a pain management specialist, has several practices in the New York City area. Really grateful to have him aboard also. Richard Jones, who's a very well-known television network executive, has been in the industry for over 40 years and has very good contacts. In fact, some of you didn't know that you were participating with one of the television stations that he's a general manager of. When you watched our global event a couple of weeks ago, it was actually originating from the studios of one of his stations. And then Jeff Boast, who's not only a physician's assistant, but a physician's surgical assistant, has assisted Dr. Maroon in over 30,000 surgeries, is a professor of medicine and health in his own right, and is a very strong member of our advisory board. Now, another thing that you hear about in regards to network marketing companies is that all of their products are snake oil. Well, and there's no science behind them, and maybe that's true for some companies. In fact, it is true for some companies, and that's true whether those products are being sold in network marketing or on the shelves of GNC. But let me talk to you a little bit about a product that we first introduced into Mexico when we first started the company. That we will just be celebrating our 4th anniversary in Mexico in November. We'll have a large event, one of our first in-person events in over a year, because due to the COVID pandemic, and we're planning right now, assuming that things remain relatively calm. And we'll talk about genomics' role in helping things on the COVID front stay relatively calm in your life and in the lives of many others here in a few minutes. But we call it genomics because it stands for genome expression. Our products are all epigenetic, meaning that they operate upon the very genes in our bodies. Now, we can't change the genes that we have, but science has shown that we can and we do influence whether those genes express or don't express, meaning kind of turn on or turn off. It's not as simple as an off-on switch. Think of it more as like a light dimmer switch. And so the things that you're doing might put that dimmer switch, that switch to go up a little more powerfully, a little brighter, or a little dimmer until it's off. Now, there can be different occasions when you might want it higher on the one hand and then lower in another time. And the most common occasion when that's the case is in regards to inflammatory genes or cytokines, which are really the bad guy in almost all disease processes. In fact, the people that suffer the most and ultimately perish from things like COVID-19 and other respiratory illnesses, and frankly, a lot of other illnesses, are those that are succumbing to the effects of their own immune system, their own inflammatory processes going wild Can
I
we,
think so.
if you're not on mute, if you could go ahead and put yourself on mute, that would be great. So we have this product called Genomics has been proven to work via something that's called a transcription factor, which is a specialized protein, in this case, one called NRF2, that basically gives instructions and activates thousands of what are called survival genes. And doesn't just activate them, but modulates them in such a way that when they're supposed to be turned up, they're up. When they're supposed to be turned down, they turn down. And that's actually the most potent NRF2 activator that's on the market today. Those of us who had been at LifeVantage had worked very closely with a foremost authority in free radical biology, Dr. Joe McCord, who is very well known as basically one of the fathers of free radical biology and the research into something called oxidative stress, which is the cumulative damage caused by free radicals in our body. And if you can reduce oxidative stress, you need to do it. Well, people, for years, talking about reducing oxidative stress was kind of like talking about the weather. Everybody talked about it, nobody did anything about it because they didn't really know how to. And sometimes there were what were considered to be legitimate attempts through antioxidants. There are a lot of drinks and other things, drinking blueberries or this particular berry or that particular berry. And if you do so, that's going to be a very powerful antioxidant. Well, they made good marketing stories. And there are many large companies that have been and still are based upon this idea of providing the body with antioxidants. But there's a dirty little scientific secret. It's not dirty. It's not really that much of a secret, to tell you the truth. It's just a fact that you cannot affect free radical damage in your body to any degree, really, by taking things through foods or what are called exogenous or outside the body sources. It simply doesn't work. In fact, it was put to me this way by one of our scientists at the previous company. We were sitting at a dinner table in Denver, Colorado. He took a glass of water and he said, "David, thinking that you can affect oxidative stress, this cumulative damage in your body that's linked to over 200 diseases and is a primary cause in aging, thinking that you can change that by drinking any berries or eating anything is like taking this glass of water and pouring it into the ocean and thinking you're making a difference in the level. It simply is not the case. It doesn't work. So what you need to do is you need to activate the body's own defenses, which are antioxidant enzymes and these genetic defenses that NRF2, which is the mechanism of action in this case, creates a cascading effect that really affects all of these thousands of survival genes that I was talking about. Now, we licensed this product. We chose out of Dr. McCord created a company called Pathways Biosciences, and they had developed a number of products under what they call their PB series. And they said, which one of these would you like to license? Upon looking at their own data, we chose what they call PB123 and what we call Genomics for two reasons. The most important of which is that by their own data, it was the most potent formula, many times more potent than the earlier product that was sold at this other company, and much more potent than even their own other formulas. And then number two, because it didn't contain a certain ingredient, ashwagandha, which actually I like ashwagandha. I think it's a great ingredient. It has lots of great science, but some countries, such as Japan and Mexico, for example, have restrictions against the inclusion of ashwagandha in their formulas. And so we didn't want to worry, we didn't want to do that because obviously we were planning on going into those countries. So we chose the formula that became Genomics. Now, we don't currently have the license to sell Genomics individually into the United States. The lawyers are working on that. We're trying to get through the current term of the agreement and renegotiate. But what we did do, and we talked with Pathways about this, is that we're not violating the agreement when we include it in packs for free, which is what we've done. And we did so because at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we realized that whether we intended to be or not, and I can't honestly say that we intended to be, we found ourselves at the forefront of cutting edge science in regards to COVID-19 research. And what I mean by that is that NRF2 had been shown for years to be effective in blocking the body's creation or production of a protease, which is a type of protein that is necessary for the the COVID-19 virus and many other respiratory viruses to attach to the cell. If they can't get this protease, which if you're taking notes and there'll be a test later, is called TMPRSS2, or if they can't get another one called ACE2, if those aren't produced in sufficient amounts by the body, then the virus simply cannot attach to the cell. If it doesn't attach to the cell, it doesn't replicate, it doesn't cause problems. So it's a good thing if you can prevent that from doing so. And based upon that, now there weren't studies yet that showed that NRF2 particularly was effective against COVID-19, but there was enough data that showed that it was effective against other COVID variants, because there are other novel coronaviruses. The reason it's called 19 is because that was the one that was discovered in 2019. But in any event, they knew a lot about the underlying aspects of it. Now that's changed. What's changed is that, for example, there's recently been a study done by Pathways. It was published. This one is called NRF2 activator as a potential therapeutic agent against COVID-19. So a specific study that shows that, yes, indeed, it's very effective against COVID-19 and in reducing what are called cytokine or inflammatory storms that occur and really cause all the damage. We're going to come back to that. There's another product that's not snake oil, Optimint. We have lots of people that know that turmeric and curcumin are very effective for pain relief and inflammation. And there's literally hundreds of products out there that contain turmeric or curcumin. There's literally hundreds of thousands of studies that talk about how effective they can be. But almost every one of those studies concludes with a phrase that goes something like this: unfortunately, due to the large molecule size of turmeric or curcumin, it's very difficult for the body to get enough into the system to really be as effective as it otherwise could be. Well, we've dealt with that in a particular type of way. And it goes to, before I get into that, I want to talk about the next one of the common, I guess the number 3 common objection to network marketing companies. First of all was that we're pyramid schemes and everybody's going to jail. And I told you that if you obey the law and if you're honest, you're going to be fine. And by the way, the whole pyramid structure, every organization is a pyramid structure, right? Every company has a president, vice presidents, directors, managers, employees, yada yada. Every family has a mom and dad, kids, grandkids. So all of us are members of pyramid schemes, whether we know it or not. But so the structure, the formation is irrelevant, because almost every organization is by its very nature, in order to have leadership, a type of triangle in terms of shape. So number 1, pyramid scheme, we've dealt with that. Number 2, snake oil, we've dealt with and we'll continue to deal with that. Number 3, well, they're just high-priced versions of things that you can buy in health food stores. Well, I just mentioned that, yeah, you can buy other curcumin products, you can buy other turmeric products, but you won't get the technology in those other products that really make them effective. See, what we did was we went to another company, Tesseract Medical, and we licensed their technology. And what they did was, first of all, they started with the substance that the body breaks turmeric and curcumin down into. If you eat turmeric in terms of Indian curry, if you take curcumin supplements, the body's ultimately going to break it down into something called tetrahydrocurcumin, otherwise known as a curcuminoid. And that's the one that's really the powerful ingredient that helps decrease inflammation, stop the pain. But again, it's hard for the body to absorb it. So what they did, Al Zapp and his team at Tesseract, they actually borrowed a technology from the pharmaceutical companies, in which they took a molecule of tetrahydrocurcumin and basically shoved it into a molecule of a dextrin, something called cyclodextrin. And that basically acts as kind of a shrink wrap and allows it to go safely through the system. Now, the problem with that is, if you don't include something else, oh yeah, it takes it all the way through the system and out without ever being released from that trap or that cyclodextrin that it's been put into. That's where the patented form of the technology comes into. They include an amylase, which allows it, which breaks down, kind of a time release breakdown of that dextrin, that starch, which is holding the ingredient in this case, the tetrahydrocurcumin. It eats it away, and voila, it's made it through and into the small intestine or wherever it's going to be metabolized, so it can be spread throughout the body and utilized. So that's something that if anybody says, oh, there's hundreds of curcumin products, you say absolutely, and you shouldn't be taking any of them because none of them work. What you ought to be taking is the one that has DexKey technology, the Siloc technology, that makes it so that ensures that the molecule is going to go to the right place at the right time. Now, we did the same thing with butyric acid. When I was first introduced to butyric acid, I had no idea what it was about. I was just on the phone with somebody today, a scientist who actually works with Pfizer. And he's worked in the viral diseases area and also in terms of cardiovascular areas. He knew all about butyric acid, but he also started laughing because, oh yeah, man, but that stuff stinks. It's vile. It's, you know, how do you deal with that? And the benefits of butyric acid, which is a short chain fatty acid produced naturally by friendly bacteria in our gut, it's been known for a long time that it helps heal the stomach lining cells, the endothelial cells that lead to leaky gut syndrome and irritable bowel syndrome and Crohn's disease and a host of all other types of gut related issues. They've known that butyric acid also helps the brain, not just the gut, because there's something called a gut-brain connection, and that fully 90 to 95% of all the chemicals used in the brains, known as neurotransmitters, are made in the gut. And if you don't have a healthy microbiome or gut, those neurotransmitters are not only not made sufficiently in quantities that you need, but they're not transmitted to the brain like they should be. So it increases that gut-brain connection. It helps those things pass the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain where they can be used. But not only that once the butyric acid actually gets to the brain, it actually creates new brain cells. Now that's called neurogenesis, or the beginning of new brain cells. And so I don't know about you, but I want as many new brain cells as I can get. And so all of these things, I mean, it really is a marvelous foundational molecule. Some people actually even refer to it as a God molecule because it is so important to all of the functions. Dr. Earle refers to it as really a foundational molecule for the overall health and well-being of our system. Well, going on from there, we have other products that are just as based upon strong science as those first three products are. Our Amora skincare line has 5 active ingredients across the spectrum of those 3 products that will absolutely, as these slides indicate, lead to real results in terms of a reduction in fine line wrinkles and not so fine line wrinkles, bigger wrinkles and lines. It will help modify and make skin coloring more like it should be. It'll deal with age spots and rosacea and things like that. And everyone that uses it loves it. And then our latest entry, Aero, which activates metabolism and curbs appetite, helps convert bad fat cells into good fat cells. Won't go on and on about all of the aspects of that, but I can tell you, if you look at the right of the slide, you see that all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 active ingredients, all of which in a complementary fashion help us increase our metabolism, so we're burning calories faster. We increase the number of mitochondria in our cells. It's not just revving it up like big doses of caffeine will do. Yeah, that will eventually strip your adrenal glands and you'll have a crash after taking too much caffeine. That's not how this works. What we're doing is, yes, we are adding energy, but we're actually adding energy by helping the body's cells, each individual cell, create more power plants for the cell, more mitochondria. And the more mitochondria you have, guess what? You're burning more stuff, and you not only have more energy, but you're burning more calories, and your cells are functioning more efficiently as well. So the next thing I want to address is, I guess, maybe the last, let's see if I can get out of here. I want to address kind of the last objection to network marketing. And that is that no one makes any money, right? You talk to anybody, they say, oh, I've known hundreds of people, I've known thousands of people, and none of them ever make any money. Well, tell that to Christina Godoy, who's an A16. I think maybe I can share this and bring this up. Let's see if we can do this. There's a check for $100,000, which is the A16 bonus check. So if somebody comes up to her, and in addition to the 5 figures per month, the mid to high 5 figures a month that she's making, if anybody tells that single mother immigrant from Colombia that nobody makes any money, she'll just laugh in your face and say, you know what, you're talking to the wrong person. I think that the same thing's true of Martin Lito in Chihuahua, outside of Chihuahua. Delicias, Mexico, which I think stands for delicious, if I remember correctly. I'll tell you what, he thinks that check's pretty delicious. It actually looks a lot better in pesos, doesn't it? Because it's talking about 2 million pesos. I mean, $100,000 sounds great, but I don't know about you, but 2 million pesos sounds amazing. And in any event, he and his whole team, and Christina and her team, and many of you on this call as well, are living proof that, by the way, even though you might say, well, lots of people don't make any money. Well, you know, if we applied that logic to everything in life, we'd never attempt anything. I mean, how many of you took piano lessons when you were a kid? I'll bet a lot of people. How many of you now play extremely well and can just go to Carnegie Hall and start, you know, pounding on tickling the ivories? Probably not so many. Well, what happened along the way? Did somebody cut your fingers off? Is that what happened? No, you just stopped doing it, like me, okay? I look back and I think, man, I wish I would have stuck with the piano. But why did I stop? Well, there are other things that were more fun. I wanted to go outside and play sports. Number 2, it wasn't easy. It didn't come as easy to me as I wanted it to. Number 3, I didn't make the progress, and this is kind of tied to being easy. I didn't make the progress as fast. I was not a musical prodigy when it came to, in fact, I wasn't a prodigy in anything, okay? And so if we judge ourselves by how quickly we do it, how many people failed in doing it, we'd never take up any hobbies, would never let our kids play baseball or football, would never let them do anything. Because the percentage of people who go on and become professionals and make money doing that is, I'll tell you what, a lot lower than people who join network marketing companies. And the principles are the same. In my experience, if people don't make any money, it's because it's hard. There are other things that they'd rather do that are more fun, and they're not progressing as fast as they'd like to. And if they can deal with any one of those very natural human feelings that arise, then they're on their way to success. Because then we have literally hundreds and thousands of people who are making $250 to $500 a month. In Mexico, that's a big deal, okay? Maybe to you, it's not such a big deal, but to Mexico it is. And people say, well, man, how do you do that? Aren't your products too expensive? They make a lot less money in Mexico than they do in the United States. How are people doing it? I'll tell you how they're doing it. The number one, they believe in the product, which is kind of amazing in some respects. They have free medical care in Mexico, so they don't really have to rely upon this, but they do. In fact, they are so happy about what the benefits, personal testimonials they have about the health benefits are crazy. Number 2, they also realize as they're sharing with other people, despite how many no's they might get, because believe me, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that people who are desperate for opportunity, which many of them are, and people who have access to a lot of family members, which many of them do, are a lot more likely to be successful. Because guess what? They have all the same objections in Mexico. There's lots of companies that have gone down there that have had all types of claims and made all these promises to people that left people very disappointed. So there are a lot of people who are just as skeptical of network marketing companies in Mexico as they are in the United States, or they are in Japan, or they are in Colombia or Peru or anywhere else where we are. So despite those objections, despite those people that are telling you, seriously, are things so bad in your life that you actually joined a network marketing company? what happened to you? Did you have a brain freeze? Why did you do this? And that's just your wife or your husband, let alone the people who don't really like you very much, or your mom or your dad saying, I can't believe you did this. But I can tell you that with all of those tools that we brought to bear, the people, the products, the science, the compensation plan, and the opportunity, he's right out there waiting for you. You know, we've had tremendous growth as a company. The early days, like any company, were a little rough. And the people that are on this call that joined in the early days are like, whoo, yeah, they were rough. And some people might say to you, well, wow, why have you stuck with this company? You haven't made that much money yet, have you? And you might say that, whoa, I'm just getting started. And again, if you look at it in terms of other things you picked up along the way, whether that's a great golf swing, piano, a saxophone, or succeeding in your own profession, I'll tell you what, after 2 or 3 years, you probably didn't get to where you ultimately wanted to be. It took a longer period of time. Some people, you know, will get there really quickly. We have Diane Young, who became an A6 in, I don't know, 3 hours. I don't know, whatever it was, but it was pretty fast. I know that. Okay. And then other people who have not made it yet. But nevertheless, what the beauty of that is that Diane shows that, guess what? You can really do it. This comp plan works. And she's living proof. And there are other people like that as well. So I guess I just want to conclude by kind of the way I started out. You know, we're judged by the company you keep. And I think Actives is the company you should keep. We've got great people, great products, great opportunity. So I told you I'm a lawyer. I'm a recovering lawyer, which means I'm not fully recovered. And when I start talking, I go on and on and on and on and on. And Stu's just laughing because he's known me for a long time. And he's just like, yep, that's David. He goes on and on and on. But anyway, I want to stop for a second. And if any of you have questions, we'll go for another few minutes. And if I can answer them, I'll try. If I can't, I'll give them to Stu, let him try. So anybody have any questions they'd like to, or comments they'd like to throw out there?
I have one question.
Sorry, Coco, you've asked all the questions you can today. Just go ahead.
Just about genomics, you say that, you know, we are not able to get it yet individually. How long that's gonna still like that?
That's a good question. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm a recovered lawyer because other lawyers drive me crazy. And the lawyers are trying to work this out. And so I can't tell you when. We're just going to try to continue to work around it as well as we can and still be in compliance with our licensing agreement with Pathways. So that's not a very good answer, but we're working on it.
Because that would give us the power to be really talking, you know, being kind of like backup when we talk with other people from the other company, right? So that.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting though, you know, I think there's great opportunity to continue to talk about it, especially as concerns about COVID and the Delta variant continue to increase. I told you about the study that Pathways themselves did, but what's interesting is that there's another study that came out, and the title of this study is, can activation of NRF2 be a strategy against some feedback?
Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, it's called, and this is not done by Pathways, by the way. It's called, can activation of NRF2 be a strategy against COVID-19? Let me just read something that it says in its concluding remarks. It says, we envisage that the benefits of pharmacological activation of NRF2 in the context of COVID-19 infection will be threefold. Number one, increasing fitness and providing protection to the host cell. So in the course of the study, it talks about how NRF2 activation actually helps make each cell more fit, stronger to put off the effects of the virus. Number two, promoting the anti-inflammatory phenotype during macrophage activation, thus preventing uncontrolled production of pro-inflammatory cytokines and pyroptosis. Okay, in English, what that means is, okay, it affects those, what happens is our body's natural immune response to almost everything is turn the heat up, inflammation. We're gonna burn that sucker out, right? What happens is, especially with like COVID, is that the respiratory cells, the cells in your lungs, they get inflamed. And when they're inflamed, just like when you have like a sliver in your finger and it becomes puffy and red and hurts, well, that's exactly what happens to your lung cells. They become puffy. I'm not sure if they're red or not, but they get puffy and painful, and they can't, and their efficiency can decrease almost to zero. That's why they can't breathe. And because they lose their elasticity as well, when they go on a respirator, forcing them to breathe in and out, it can cause tremendous lung scarring because of that. All because the body was trying to do what it thought was best in turning up the temperature, increasing the inflammation. That's what's referred to as a cytokine, is another word for inflammation. And they call it a cytokine storm. All of these things coming together and your body just being ravaged by inflammation. And so what it's saying here is NRF2 has been shown to modulate those genes that think they're doing you a favor by turning up the heat. And they're saying, no, back off, boys. We know you mean well, but you got to turn yourself down, okay? Turn it down a notch. And so that's what it does. And then finally, it says it inhibits viral propagation, okay? Meaning that it prevents or slows down the expansion of the virus in the body. We talked about that a little bit earlier as to how that did it. It makes it so the body doesn't produce that protease that's necessary for the virus to attach itself to the cell. And if it can, guess what? If before it gets out of control, the body can control it through normal inflammatory processes. It's only when it seems to be everywhere that it just turns on the furnace. And so if you can actually control the number of viruses that are in your body, then your body can take care of it. And so it really is, and it says, unlike other direct antioxidants like vitamin C that are short-lived, the NRF2 activation is long-lasting and produced for several days after you begin to induce it. And these guys don't know about us. They don't know about genomics. They just know about NRF2. And I can tell you that it is one of those things. I'm not saying that people shouldn't get vaccinated. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that one thing we've known from the very, very beginning of COVID-19, and frankly, almost every other disease, if your immune system is strong, if you can decrease inflammation, you're going to fare better. That's just the way it is with almost everything that your body will encounter. So that's the importance of talking about NRF2 activation.
Diane was asking me the other question about, she has a person that, I don't know how many pounds is the person, 300, and she was asking me, is this person needs to take 2 Genomics because the weight? And I was like, well, no, because everybody, we had between 2,000 or 3,000 survival genes. So that means they still need to take 1 Genomics per day, correct? Or
well, dosing can be weight dependent in some respects and size dependent. But and I don't think it certainly won't hurt them to take more like two in the morning, 2 at night, something like that. We don't have the data, Diane, to show that it's absolutely required. My guess is that they would probably be fine on the normal dosage. But again, this is the type of thing where all of us can take responsibility for our own health. And I can tell you this: I used to take a lot more Protandim than Dr. McCord even thought was healthy. He's like, dude, you're taking way, well, he didn't really call me dude. Dr. McCord doesn't really call people dude that much, but he said, I don't think that, you don't need to take that much. And he didn't really think it was going to be a problem, but he just thought I was just overdoing it. And then years later, when we got back together to talk about, we'd both left LifeVantage and he had formed Pathways, and Ryan and I were in the process of coming together to form Actives. And he said, David, turns out you were probably right. You didn't know you were right, so it was a total accident, but you were probably right. He said, you probably were taking, you were probably closer to the correct dosing. And he explained the fact that the main reason that genomics is so much more powerful than, say, Protandim is that both of them are effective in causing the body to allow NRF2 to get into the cell. Both of them create an opening or a doorway, okay? But in Protandim's case, at the same time it produces an entrance, it also produces an exit. And so NRF2 gets in, but it goes out pretty quickly. Whereas in this case, in genomics, they have the opening, but no exit. And so that allows it to work its normal life cycle. All that said, Diane, if your friend wants to experiment with taking more than one, there certainly isn't any safety reason not to. And he can see how he feels.
And then I have one more. Fernando's in the call, and he was asking me because he knows a lot of ingredients. I am very happy that he's going to enjoy the company. You're going to like his knowledge. He was mentioned something about, oh, I noticed the Optima now, and this one has zinc and the other one no. And I was thinking, well, I think David mentioned that because there's a regulation from Bolivia that they need to have zinc, but I was not sure if that was the correct answer, that why this Optima has zinc now.
Yes. That's exactly right. You know, as we go into new countries, each country has its own regulations. Some of them are a little odd, and this one's really odd, that Colombia requires, in order to, the United States doesn't require us to get pre-market approval. We don't have to go to the government first. As long as we abide by the regulations that are set in place, we can create products and sell them. Other countries like Mexico, Colombia, Peru, we have to go to those regulatory bodies. Their version of the FDA. So in Mexico's case, it's COFEPRIS. In Colombia, I think it's DIHAMIN. In Peru, it's INVIMA. And we have to. And so in Colombia, they say you cannot get a registration as a dietary supplement unless you have a vitamin or a mineral in your formula, regardless of the intended benefit. And they don't even care. They don't care what you use, how much you put in it, or anything. It's just, you have to have it in. It really makes no sense. As I was talking to Dr. McCord about this, he said, that's crazy. I said, yeah, it's a little crazy. So we talked with, so in terms of genomics, what we added was based upon our conversation with Dr. McCord. And in case of Link and Optimend, those ingredients were also added in consultation with Al Zapp, actually, in terms of what we thought those ingredients would do to be complementary to those formulas.
Thank you, David.
Sure. No more questions for you, Coco. You're all out of questions. Sorry. In fact, you can't ask any next month either. You just totally, no, just kidding. So anybody have any other questions? She was doing a good job asking questions though, wasn't she? She had some good ones.
I have more, but I'm leaving the people.
Susanna, were you going to say something? It looked like you were about to say something. No? Okay. Anybody else? Rigo, how you doing, my friend? Did we put you to sleep? I told you this would put you to sleep. Let's see. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. It's great being on the phone with you tonight and on the Zoom call. I hope you learned something a little bit more about actives. For all of you that are newcomers, welcome. The good news about this is that we're a company that we can't make any money unless you make money. And as you do, as you succeed, we succeed. It's total arm in arm development. We need you. We can't exist without you. And we hope that we can provide benefits in terms of health and financial support and security for you and your family for many years to come. So with that said, we'll let you go. Thanks for coming. Stu, turn it back to you, buddy.